something, some kind of meta humor or reference wasn't even in pop culture then. So talk to us about how television and entertainment has evolved and changed, and you've had to sort of adapt to that.
Well, it seems that it's due to the vast amount of pop culture that exists and the various ways that we have to consume it now that there are so many layers upon layers of things, and actors always worked a lot, but tend to work in a similar genre now these days. And when you get into the sci-fi fantasy realm, you kind of continue to do that. So it's fun to poke fun, and it's become a socialized or socially acceptable function. There's another word for it, but device in film and television. And as long as the actors are fine poking fun at themselves, then that's good to do. I mean, the Superman thing has become a running theme in a lot of the projects I've done, where people want to poke fun at it, or not poke fun, but make light of it and use it as a device, because it's humorous and ironic and all those things. And I'm fully game to do all that.
No, I was going to say, I think that's one of the beautiful things about Legends, personally, that I enjoy, is that they are all misfits, and they're all kind of accidental superheroes. So I think that also helps with that whole sort of, taking the myth of each other and like of yourselves. I think it just makes them kind of endearing. It makes them human and relatable. So I think it's a really nice direction that they've moved in, especially for our show.
Maisie, you also are regarded now as Star Wars canon because you played Coruscant in The Force Awakens. And you did actually have a scene opposite Carrie Fisher where you had dialogue, right, that didn't make it in the final movie, but I believe it's a deleted scene, right? Talk to us about, I mean, my God, where do you even start? Carrie Fisher, J.J. Abrams, a new Star Wars. I mean, I didn't think I would be around for a brand new sort of Star Wars entry into that whole Skywalker saga. So what was it like to be a part of that?
It was incredible. It was actually my first professional job. So I just finished university, and I'd never been on a film set before. I'd only done theatre, and suddenly I got this call. And it was an 8-month casting process, and then eventually I met with JJ and we did the scene. So my first time ever on a set was opposite Carrie Fisher, so I was terrified. If you imagine, like day one, oh, here's Carrie Fisher. And she was just an absolute dream. She really was just so kind and patient with me, and we were joking and laughing, and she took the time, like during lunch, to come and sit with me and chat. And I was just there for a couple of days, so she really didn't have to, and she just really made an effort and went the extra mile. So yeah, she was wonderful. I couldn't have asked for a better first screen partner. And then just JJ, he wasn't even watching the monitor. He'd sit like where Brandon was, Carrie was there, I was here, and he's just there watching our faces like this, which is beautiful. And it was all shot on film, and a lot of the sets were made from scratch, so it wasn't all in post. So he really went back to like the original drawing board, and you really felt that love, and the fact that he was a man himself, and that just came through, his passion for it.
And Brandon, Superman Returns, I'm a huge Bryan Singer fan.
Which I appreciated. So yeah, it was still the beginning of that, and Superman was always, for some reason, people don't understand, Superman had a hard time figuring out how you could make a film out of him, and that still persisted after the film was made, which I don't understand. But maybe it's just that people have a hard time understanding what the draw is about Superman, which seems strange, but why he would be watchable. And I think it's because we think of Superman as being perfect, but Superman's flawed. Superman, he has all these powers, but he has flaws as well that he's trying to work through, and maybe that is what needs to get highlighted in Superman's films. But the right kind of flaws have to get...
No, and I think you should be proud of that film, and it's a really respected movie, particularly for what Bryan Singer brought to it and the character. He wanted an unknown actor. You kind of were at the time in terms of the big screen. So I think that was it was great to have a fresh face there, and I think you tackled the role in the way they wrote it and the way he crafted it. It was, like you say, it showed the flaws, and it really was a nice character examination that we hadn't really seen before, except from the Christopher Reeve movie. So it sort of harkened back to those ones, but it also had a unique stamp on it as well.
Thanks. I think what that film needed, or could have used, or what might have made it more palatable to people, is to have the Superman Returns, and then whatever the title of the next one would have been, have come concurrently. because you have such a large gap of seeing Superman and seeing somebody new in the role, that the story, people didn't not everybody jived with where the story was going and where Superman was. People that were concerned that Superman seemed like he was a stalker and that he was a deadbeat dad, all of these things, which obviously were not really the case if you really consider the story, and don't just judge it because you're upset for some reason. I think if you duly consider it, you'll see that that's not at all what was happening in the story, and had it a little more consideration in that realm been given, the sequel would have come out and maybe answered some of those questions, or made have more fully realized where Brian and Mike and Dan were taking the character, and where I wanted to take the character as well.
I also want to talk about the League of Evil Exes, because there's a lot of talk about Edgar Wright these days with Baby Driver, which was a huge success, great film. And I loved you in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. What was it like working on that film and with him as a director? Because that is such a bonkers movie that defies genre, and it's become a cult classic. So what's it like to be a part of that legacy?
Yeah, Edgar's amazing. I was really a fan of his before I got the call about the possibility of playing Todd Ingram. Strangely enough,
bass player for Clash at Demon Head. Right?
Yes. Strangely enough, when we were filming Superman Returns in Sydney, Australia, I was at the movies. One day I had off for the weekend and saw a trailer for Shaun of the Dead, and released in like August, like later in Australia. I was like, oh, I can't wait to see this movie. And I didn't know who Edgar was at the time, and thoroughly enjoyed that movie and became an instant fan. So to work with him was pretty awesome. It was a great experience and really fun cast. It was bonkers, but it worked so well because Edgar has such an amazing cinephile and mind, and editor's mind, and all these things. He knew exactly what he wanted to do. He had storyboards for every single thing. We shot out of order, not in sequence, not chronological. Actually, we did shoot. We shot in a weird way anyway that was not necessarily monetarily good. In order to cut how he was going to edit the film. So I won't get into that, but it just shows how he was very detail oriented, but at the same time having a blast and a joy the whole time. So he wasn't bossy or cruel or any of those things, or anxiety ridden because he was worried about getting stuff done. He was enjoying the whole process. I think also because it was so well planned out. He could kind of sit back and think, I have made my plan, and now we can enjoy this experience. So it was quite enjoyable, and yeah.
I think I love that your veganism gave you telekinetic powers. That was one of the best parts of the character. Maisie, I wanted to talk to you about a very important initiative that's close to your heart and that you're passionate about. So why don't you tell everyone about here what you're involved with currently?
Yeah, so some of the women from the different DC shows have just joined together to create She Authority, which is basically a space for female empowerment, female trans women and anyone who identifies as female. And it's basically just to encourage each other, to share stories and to learn from each other. You know, we tell our very personal experiences and we share yours. And it's very early days. We've just got Instagram and Twitter at the moment, and we're about to start a website. Eventually we want to do panels. We want to interview all women from all the different shows, behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, you know, political figures and everything. But we want you guys to be involved from the very beginning. So if you have any ideas or any thoughts for what you would like to see, or any stories that you'd like to share, then please do just send them to us, DM us. And we've also got a shirt. This is the first day I can show you. This is a prototype. Yeah, thanks Brandon. So we're about to sell these, because it's going to be better quality. This was just a tester they sent us. And then the back, it's got all our faces, and we've got your back.
Very cool. Amazing. Can you give us the social media handles for anyone that wants to check it out?
So these go on sale next week, and then we'll also be going partly for charity to an amazing charity called Girls Inc., which is all about the supporting of young women growing up and basically creating role models and personal relationships with women across the country. And the handle is just @SheAuthority. So,
there you go, check it out.
Yeah, check it out, join us. Men are just as much important in the empowerment of women, so you're completely welcome. This is for all of us.
Wear the shirt?
You can wear the shirt, yeah.
I think I need a bigger one, but
All right, if anyone wants to line up and ask some questions, we'll get to that in a second. I just want to, before we get to the Q&A with the audience, is there anything you can tell us about this Epic 4-show crossover that's coming that I guess is in the Arrowverse? Is that sort of how it originated?
The concept of the crossover?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first crossover was, I believe, was Flash, Arrow, which launched Flash, and then it just kind of grown from there as everyone who's loved the shows has responded and viewed it. And last year was the first big kind of through storyline, or just isolated storyline for that. And this season is even bigger because now we have it's 4 hours, not just 3. So.
And it ends on Legends, so we get the big fight. We've got all the good stuff.
And I'm hearing it's going to be quite emotional, like for all the shows as well. Like there's a lot of impact.
Yeah, there are relationships that are heavily affected in many ways.
You get the last word.
Yeah, we kind of get the last word.
Okay, cool. Let's take some questions right now, and yeah, go ahead over here.
Hi, since you brought up She Authority, Maisie, I just wanted to say I absolutely love She Authority already. It's the first social media I check every single morning when I get up.
Thank you.
And it's amazing, so thank you for doing that. My question is, there seems to be a lot more women coming into like the whole comic book universe and action film universe, and like Wonder Woman was such a huge success, even though theaters were like, girls don't like action films. And then with Deadpool, even then, they were like, wow, a lot of women went and saw this, and they advertised it as like a romance. So do you think that these sort of shows and movies, like your show, you have that thing going on with Nate and everything, do you think a romance is always required, or, I mean, I don't really like it, so do you think you can get away with these kinds of things without a romance plot?
Definitely, and I think thank God for Wonder Woman, because it just opened so many doors for us, and it's also the first female-directed movie over $100 million. And look at it, and sometimes Hollywood takes a while to catch up, so we need a huge project like that, and then it trickles down to us. And even on our season this year, we've got a lot more women. We've got Courtney, Brandon's wife, on the show, which is amazing. Female baddies, we've got Tala joining the ship. So I think, and the wonderful thing actually about Tala is that, like, our characters, Zari and mine, you know, there's no love involved. It's just a wonderful female friendship. And actually the episode that comes out on Tuesday, I remember there's a scene with 4 women in it, and we didn't mention a man once. And we were like, this episode actually passes the Bechdel test. And we're really proud of that. You know, it doesn't have to be romantic based, just because neither do the male storylines, but it's beautiful when it is. It just has to be done the right way, and not just with the female being, you know, the victim, or being, you know, the love lost, forlorn one. I think there's a way to use relationships and make it empowering as well.
Thank you.
Right on. Okay, we'll take a question over here.
Hi. So I think something that's really cool about Legends is that we've got this team with an incredible dynamic, and you keep putting them into different times in history and seeing how everything gets changed and how you interact with the people of different eras. So I was wondering if there's a certain period or event that you would like to see the team go to.
Well, we've already covered my kind of favorite time period, which happened in the Camelot episode. Then I got to the sword fight, Damien Dark, which was one of my highlights. So people continue to ask that question. I haven't really figured out the next best thing yet, but
I think you want to see the show tackle Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
oh, I did say that. Yes, that's the other thing, which is kind of still on
The greatest
similar.
comedy of all time.
I think that's the next spoof. That's right. To do that would be probably a hard episode to write, because it's hard to be in the footsteps of those that writing. But I don't know.
Well, it is now. We're about to shoot next week one which is one of my personal favorites, which is Pirates. I get to be a pirate queen, which I'm really excited about. Yeah, with Blackbeard in it. I think as we're going to start looking for the different totems, and that takes us to some really interesting places and stories. So it's definitely something to look forward to in the second half of the season.
Okay, we'll take a question from over here.
Hello.
Hi.
I was wondering, as professionals that have worked in the industry for a fair amount of time, what advice you might have for young actors and actresses that are just starting out?
Well, The first thing, I mean, many places to go with that, I guess, but if you're looking to work in film and television, actually Vancouver is becoming, I suppose, a more appropriate place as there's so many productions here. So I guess this applies to whether you're in Vancouver or Los Angeles or New York, but it's to find a quality acting coach and to be in class and to be with your peers working on material, and if you don't have representation or management, it's to get in those classes and to be seen, and often that can lead to relationships that that coaches might have with casting directors or agents, and you build relationships. As far as from that business aspect, and from a creative aspect, I would say that just remember film and television is all about being real. Theater is a different animal. Theater is about being bigger and to reaching the back audience, and you have to be a little bit larger than life. But with film and television, it's all about real feelings and emotions and small reactions versus big reactions. And so that, just to notice that difference, I guess,
And because there are so many productions here, also you can sign up and be an extra, just to get some experience on a set. And yeah, like Brandon said, going to classes, going to improv classes, just to get your reaction times up. Brandon's amazing at that. He has us all laughing on set all the time. And just, keeping it real, keeping it fresh, not losing that passion, remembering why you're doing it. It can't be about the sort of financial or the glamour. It has to be because you love the craft. So holding on to that and nurturing that, and then you'll get satisfaction.
Exactly, and I would say, you mentioned improv, and I would say, even if you don't think you want to be doing comedy, I'd say investigate improv, because I actually learned more dramatically than I did from doing improv class. Improved my dramatic acting more than it did my comedic acting, almost, because in improv you have to let go, and you have to be okay being silly and ridiculous. Otherwise you won't succeed. And that was very freeing for some reason for me in a dramatic sense. So I think it can be for other people.
All right. Okay, we'll take a question over here now.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about some of the funniest moments that you guys have had on set and behind the scenes.
I had a favourite, which is actually in Tuesday's episode, which was seeing Victor as what was it? The sign, the new Martin sign?
Fire sign?
Fire sign, yeah, which was brilliant. His face, he was not best pleased. But the best bit was they hadn't actually made him his own costume, so he had to wear Franz's costume, which cheered him up. He was like, I can fit into this is brilliant. And suddenly he was really happy. So seeing him strut around in that outfit was fantastic.
Some of my most fun moments are when I say or do something that I think might be funny, and then I look at Nick Zano, because he has a hard time keeping a straight face, and I do it purposely sometimes just to make him crack up and to break character.
Nice. Okay, we'll go over here now.
Hi. Brandon, I just actually wanted to ask you, last year when you posted on Facebook, you mentioned your wife being on Supernatural. How happy are you now that she's actually filming with you on Legends? How do you feel about that?
It's fantastic. It means I get to have my family unit together in Vancouver, and I don't fly. When Courtney was working on Supernatural last year, my son and her would fly up here and be here for a couple weeks and then go back, and then I would fly back to go back and forth, LA and Vancouver. And so now that she's been working so much on Legends of Tomorrow, they're up here and we get to be together, and I don't have to fly around so much. So, okay, and she adds such a dynamic energy to the role from a non-personal thing, but as a viewer, outside viewer, trying to be an outside viewer watching the show, I watched the last episode and was just like floored by how
she was great.
How much gravitas and depth that gives the anchors, the even more strongly anchors what Neil does, and makes them villains that the Legends really have to put their heads together to contend with.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take one from over here now. Go ahead.
Hi. I was just wondering for you guys, I mean, like, all of these people show up to these conventions to meet actors and all these types of people that are a part of their lives that maybe change their lives in a good way. So I was just wondering if there was someone that you either have or would go to something like this to meet.
Mine would probably be Meryl Streep. I adore Meryl Streep and I love her work and also as part of the person. Every time I read interviews, she seems fascinating, and her advocacy and her political work and her feminism. So I would definitely fangirl hardcore over Meryl Streep.
I mean, I would say there are people in the health and nutrition field and world and like neurobiology and things that I'm kind of investigating that I am a fan of their work and have been instrumental in impacting the way I live my life and the level of happiness that I currently have. Dave Asprey, who founded Bulletproof, I didn't meet at a con, but I went out of my way to ask a friend who I realized knew him to have us meet, and would have gone up to him at a con, would have gone someplace to meet him because he made his information he was putting out into the world was very transformational for me. And there are other such people in that in that world that I would definitely geek out and have a lot of questions for as well. Have great respect for the knowledge that they're giving everyone.
All right, over on this side, go ahead.
Thank you.
So speaking of health and fitness, we talked a little bit about this at your table, but what did your diet look like for Superman, and how important is it to be in a calorie surplus to build muscle?
Well, I'm not a bodybuilding expert, but when I was doing Superman Returns and training for that 12 or 13 years ago, the idea, the concept for building mass was a heavy protein, low fat, where there was tons of chicken and egg whites and broccoli and blah, protein shakes and all that. It's not the way I would do it if I was to do it again. I was also 24 at the time, 25, and I never lifted heavy weights, so my body really responded to that. It was much easier for me to do that. You definitely have to have more calories and protein for your body to utilize, to break down muscle and rebuild, but you don't need the extreme amounts that I was eating at that time. It's bad on your liver. You should add more high quality fats to your diet, and you just don't need that much protein. So I can't give you exactly what I would do now, though I would check out, if you're wanting to know information, I would look at what paleo and keto ketogenic weightlifters are doing, and that would be something I would be more down with. So really high quality fat, moderate protein, and very low carb.
Thank you.
I think we just crossed verses here and got to do a health expo. Nicely done.
It would be my second career someday.
Okay, question over here from R2.
Since you're having a 4-day crossover with all 4 shows, I was wondering what 4 shows out of past, present, would you pick to have a crossover with? Or what other 3 shows plus your show?
Just superhero shows or any shows?
Any shows you want. They can be anime, they can be anything.
Stranger Things and Game of Thrones.
Maybe we can take a dip to OA while we're there.
And then there got to be a comedy of some sort. So Silicon Valley. Ray Palmer would fit in Silicon Valley.
Big Bang Theory. I like that. That's good.
Big Bang Theory, yes. Obviously, if we're going to do sitcom, I would any day. Call me.
All right, go ahead on this side.
Hi. Brandon, what are qualities of Ray Palmer do you find yourself relate to?
Do I find myself
Like what you are there anything
relating
you
to? Oh,
yeah. Sorry.
no, that's right. Many of them. Originally when Ray was brought into into Arrow, he was a bit more like what his brother Sidney Palmer is like. I think if we ever see Sidney, a little more the ego first, businessman, knows all the answers and is charismatic, but also a little bit of a jerk. And I took that and I saw where they were going, and I was like, just kind of gently eased him into having energy of somebody like that, of somebody who wants to be very successful, and made it into this joy of creating things and geeking out on tech, because that's kind of what I wanted to do. That's the person I wanted to inhabit more. And so a lot of what's in Ray is obviously what the writers and producers have given Ray, but also the energy. I think that using what I knew they wanted and kind of having an amalgam of those things. So his joy about creating and giving information, like I could, talk the way I talk about nutrition is the way Ray talks about tech, so I use those. And I think his belief that everyone can have prosperity and happiness is part of me, and the glass half full kind of guy. But also Ray needs to learn that there's another side of life, and you can't have light without dark, and that's certainly something I'm experiencing and learning in my life, and how to balance those two things, and for it to be okay that both exist, because you can't have one without the other. You really can't.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
All right, guys, we're almost out of time, so we have about 10 minutes left. I think we'll be okay with the remaining questions here, but if we could just keep them brief, that would be much appreciated. So go ahead on this side.
Hi guys, thanks for being here today. My question is, having been involved in one comic book property and Scott Pilgrim and Dog and so on, are there any comic book series that you read yourselves, or characters that you yourselves would like to portray on screen?
I don't know if you guys really have this here, but I grew up from a very young age on the Beano. Do you have the Beano? Which kind of, I don't know what happens to that. I think that would make it a great sort of live action.
Beano?
The Beano, yeah.
Beano?
Dennis the Menace. No?
Oh yeah, Dennis the Menace, yes.
Yeah, so that was his comic, and it was fantastic. That was always my one growing up.
I don't think so. I'm sure that I would take to other properties that came to me. I was not an avid comic book reader before Superman happened for me, and I have I've done more comic book reading since having done this role and other roles. But my geekdom lives in sci-fi fantasy. So book properties, Terry Brooks, which there's the Shannara series now, and Terry Goodkind, and there's Wizard's First Rule, which they did that to varying degrees of success. Stuff like that would be what I would want to do someday.
Okay, we'll take a question from over here.
This is probably for both of you, but maybe more directed towards Brandon, being that he's been on pretty much every DC TV show that you can think of. I just want to ask...
I've been on Supergirl yet.
Wow. Not yet. But in terms of those crossovers especially, what other cast members and other shows do you just find instant chemistry with, be it on screen or off screen, just people that when you get there and you're kind of working away, you just instantly kind of become friends? Or
I loved working with Emily Bett and Carlos. Like, they were fantastic. And again, talking about improv, they're just on fire the whole time. So having those both from Arrow and from Flash come to our show last year and working with them again was such a pleasure. It's just lovely to change the energy up during the crossovers.
I've never had enough time on screen with Grant. Someday maybe we'll have an episode that's just like Ray and Barry centric, which would be great.
Get your own short film going.
What's that?
Get your own short film.
I know. He did with Tom, and Tom would be one of the other people, because various versions of his character are kind of like Ray. So it would be fun to have those two back and forth on screen.
Okay, go ahead over here.
Hi. This question is for Brandon, relating to Scott Pilgrim. Did you actually have to learn bass for the role, or did you already know it? And if so, is there any other music-related thing that you do?
I did have to learn to play bass. Now, it is not my sound recorded in the movie, but I had to learn the fingering of all 3 or 4 bass riffs, and then the Clash of Demon Head song that we played. And we had band practice, which is awesome. And Brie Larson, to give her credit, it's actually her voice in the movie because she's a really great singer. But and also Tennessee Thomas, who's playing drums, who's a real musician. I practiced for months learning that from the gentleman who actually created the riffs, and I got pretty good at it, I think. I don't play bass anymore. I still have the bass that I did learn on. I play trumpet's my best instrument. I play piano and kind of play drums, but not really doing too much music right now. I think as my son gets older, I'll probably get more back into playing music as he tends to love music. So,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, go ahead over here.
Hi, first of all, I love both of you. Amazing. You were amazing as Rebecca Michelson in the originals. And so I'm glad that, Brandon, you kind of mentioned, you were a huge fan of like the neuromedicine and the engineers in that aspect. So I just want to ask, I guess, what the future, or if any of the engineers, want to become actors, what kind of exposure would they want to go through? I mean, as a biomedical engineer myself, I really wanted to be an actor. So I just wanted to ask, like, what kind of exposure do you think? You both can answer the question.
So you mean to transition to acting? Well, I mean, I studied anthropology and archaeology, and I adore that, and I still intend to go make anthropology documentaries. I think it's such a crucial way for us to understand other cultures and other ways of life. So I think the two can coexist. I don't think you have to transition from one to the other, and that's the beauty of it. And I think for as long as you can, keep them both.
Okay, awesome.
The most important thing about being an actor, I think, although I suppose there are great actors who don't know themselves very well, because they maybe deny who they really are, but at some core inside, they know the truth about themselves, or some truth about themselves, and you have to really be in touch with your own humanity in a way in order to tell the truth, because acting is all about telling the truth, or knowing that you're not telling the truth. But if you don't know that you're not telling the truth, then that's an actor that's not great at their skill, at their craft. They also might not know themselves in their own life. I know this because I've been through this journey myself. When I look at stuff that I'm not happy with, I'm not telling the truth because I wasn't accepting some side of myself that I was trying to portray. And you have to be able to see what that is, how you relate to that character, otherwise it's phony, it's always going to be false.
Thank you.
Goes to you.
No pressure, man. So I just want to say that Legends has this great cast, but also through TV magic, you have characters like Gumball and Gertrude being introduced, which, for us, we get to see the final product, but you guys are probably acting opposite a tennis ball, or I think there was a baby prop doll in the case of Gumball. But how much information do they give you going into the scene of what you're acting against?
Sometimes not a lot. When Maisie had to interact with Gertrude, it was pretty awesome. We were in the snow in the middle of Central Park here in Vancouver, and a gentleman kind of jogged out with a big pole and a tennis ball at the top of it, and so Maisie was doing her scene calming Gertrude.
Yeah, I had no idea what it was going to look. I mean, I did because of the first episode, but it
And
was,
you've never seen a dinosaur?
and also
Not
I
in real
hadn't
life.
come out yet at that point. I'd never seen a dinosaur. Grodd was pretty amazing actually.
Oh, yeah, that was
Yeah.
cool. A guy in a real gorilla suit, except for his face.
It's hilarious. So you got like this sort of 8 foot who's on stilts in the giant, like real life size suit, and then his little head sticking out the top. Which was great.
It was great.
And we had some emotional stuff with Rod as well, so it was really useful to have him there, and he really committed. But yeah, sometimes you have to just use completely the imagination, and that's also fun.
Yeah, the gumball in the scene, in the lab scene, where the agents then sing "Good Morning," was like a cardboard cutout of what Gumball would look like. So it was kind of helpful. But sometimes it's just literally an X made with tape.
Great question, thank you for that. And then we're just almost out of time, but I just want to give the floor to you guys respectively and just offer some parting words to everyone that came out here to support you and their fans of the show and people that we don't have here today, the legions of people that tune in and follow yourselves as performers and that love your characters. What do you have to say to that?
Oh geez, that's a big open-ended question. I feel like I need to say something powerful. I just want to say, thank you. I understand more and more. I'm able to take in more and more as I get older and do these things more. The gratitude that people send our way, and it's this really unique thing because we're the face of the show, but without you guys, the show doesn't exist either. So, we're in this unique symbiotic relationship where we're all helping each other. And even in that strange analogy, it's true. And I just would say, look for other places in your life where that exists. Because that's what I'm doing right now, is to see how we're all helping each other out, whether we know it or not. And your enemies are not your enemies. They're just able to help you become a better person if you can reflect on what it is their challenges are teaching you or giving you the opportunity to learn.
Yeah, I mean, following up on that, I completely agree. And just to say, through doing these conventions and reading things that you guys post, there are so many real-life superheroes out there that inspire me, and you guys take my breath away again and again and again. So I think you all deserve to give yourselves a pat on the back, because you are as much part of this team, if not more, because you're doing it in real life. And, we try and do it through meeting you, but just value yourselves, because you guys are incredible, and use that and feed that back into the world, and we all have the ability to inspire people around us. So I think following through with that and really using that, and thank you for supporting us, and thank you for being a part of this journey with us.
And thanks to you too for standing with us today. Really appreciate it. All right, let's hear it.